Welcome to the Locked In Baseball Podcast. I'm William Locke. He is Luis Barranco. It is Tuesday, January 20th. Luis, how you holding up after yesterday evening's game?
I mean, I got no comment. I don't want to say some inflammatory stuff. I will refrain my things. Again, would hate to be the Raiders in April. I will say that.
Salty.
I'm not salty. It's the truth. I mean, if I'm the Raiders, I'm looking at some other boys. Looking at the Ohio State guys. I know they don't do great at winning, but the Caleb Downs. Pretty good ball player, I would say.
Ruben Bain looked incredible last night. I mean, he could be the first overall pick. Tough loss for your Canes. Tough loss for my Bears on Sunday. It was a tough football weekend for both of us. Season's ending, heartbreak. But that's just what sports are. And I thought it was kind of funny. Kayla, well, I didn't think it was funny. Kayla was devastated about the Bears loss. I think she had convinced herself that they were going to win. And yeah, she was just dejected after the loss. And I'm like, and this was kind of like the first season that I think that she really got fully into the Bears, like thinking they were going to win and watching every single game, because like our whole life, they haven't really been relevant. And now that's relevant. It's been a long time. And she grew up with a brother and her dad that were super into sports. So she watched, but I think this is the first, like the most invested she's ever been. And to see her dejected like that, it definitely sucked. And I'm kind of like, well, you know, that's sports. That's 99.9% of the time you're probably going to have your heart broken at the end of the season. Like we say all the time here, only one team wins, only one fan base is celebrating at the end of the season. So I can appreciate and we both now can appreciate the good Bear season, but Sunday did suck. And I'm sure last night did suck for yourself as well, watching the Natty. It was a good game, at least.
I was numb at the end. I was just numb. I was just none. You could be a Saints fan. Like you could suffer the heartbreak I've gone through. PI, Minnesota Miracle, getting bounced by Minnesota every single year. It's tough. I mean, I would rather be a Detroitan than a Minnesotan. I will say that though, after visiting Detroit this weekend.
Well, yeah, Minnesota's had some heartbreaking losses. And
what do you mean? Minnesota's always won the big game. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, they haven't won the Super Bowl in, I don't think, ever. It's been a long time if they have. The Twins won 2 in the like 80s and early 90s, but it's been a long time since that city's. I guess they had the Minnesota Lynx. How was the weekend up in Detroit?
I mean, it was great. I love the great state of Michigan. I cannot lie. It was a really nice. It was about 1 degree up there for my weekend stay. Saw some snow. Very different than 60, 70 degrees. Took it like a champ. Just wearing a little shiesty the whole weekend. Got me through it. Shiesty in a jacket. Got me through Detroit. Saw the auto show. Went to a Wings game. Almost lost my voice at the Wings game. Yeah, it was a great weekend. Saw some friends. Did some cross country skiing, which it's pretty fun. Would recommend all for if you are unathletic or you lack athleticism and balance, or you're just not very sportsy. I think cross country skiing is a great sport for people to do as a winter sport. Again, very low impact, a good workout as well. You should do it, man. They should have some places in Chicago. I mean, literally went to a freaking golf course, and that's what they did they converted into a cross country ski slope, and we just had at it, rented some skis for $20 and had some fun.
That is interesting. I don't know if there's any places around Chicago. Probably. I've never been that cross country skiing or regular skiing, so I think it's definitely on the list. Something I want to do. It looks really fun. Scary a little bit.
How is it scary? It's a good date idea. I mean, nobody's really
the downhill skiing. Armand blew out his shoulder, but that's
it's Armand. Armand is like, you know, I took some falls this weekend. Not crazy, but it's like if you just pizza and French fry and you don't try to shred it, like you won't tear an ACL or tear your freaking whole labrum out, you know. You won't end up on the IL for 60 days, essentially.
And we'll talk about, that's a good segue. We'll talk about an unfortunate injury that occurred in Atlanta. But it's a pretty loaded podcast, so I think we should get into it. We got a lot to talk. Bo Bichette signed. Cody Bellinger's market seems like it's finally coming to fruition. We had the Hall of Fame announcement just before we hit record on this episode. JT Realmuto signed. It looks like a lockout is all but certain at this point, based on an article that dropped in The Athletic. Again, just before we hit record. Ellie De La Cruz, some news from him out of Cincinnati, and then some other news and notes from around the league. So we got a lot to get to. I think we should start with Bo Bichette, who pretty much right after we stopped recording on Friday, he decided to sign. He goes to the New York Mets, a bit of a surprising move here. 3-year deal worth $126 million, $42 million annually. There are opt-outs after the first and second seasons, no deferrals whatsoever, and he's expected to play third base with Brett Beatty moving into some type of utility role. Could see some left field action depending on what they do for the rest of free agency. But Luis, the Mets, they answer right away from missing out on Tucker, and they give a Bo Bichette another super short deal with a very high annual value. What are your thoughts?
I mean, let's get to it. I mean, Bo Bichette to the Mets, instant reaction was, wow, that is a lot of money for a guy who is just a hitter. Again, the Mets middle infield is already pretty much loaded. The spots are taken. You're not moving Mr. Met, which that is Francisco Lindor at a shortstop, Gold Glove defender at the shortstop position. You just traded for Marcus Semien, who will be your second baseman at opening day. Won't be moving him off. So what's available? First or third base? I mean, Pete's not there anymore. Bo doesn't profile as a first baseman, and you have third base, which, I mean, you got the Beatty and Vientos, who are the Mets equivalent of Miguel Andujar and Clint Frazier in trade talks. So, look, man, from a hitting perspective, it's great because let's play a little game here, William. Let's compare. I think the Mets lineup is slowly starting to take shape, and I can see the vision. Bo Bichette, Marcus Semien are the two big pillars that they picked up this offseason. And they're going to be replacing Jeff McNeil and Pete Alonso. Again, I feel from a name perspective, I think they are losing out. But I feel from like a total vacuum perspective, I think there's a little bit they may be a little bit of an upgrade, cautiously optimistic. And I'd like to ask you, what side would you rather have, the McNeil and Alonso side or the Semien and Bichette side of things?
Like, would I rather have just Alonso or Polanco and Bichette?
Or all those three? Would you rather have Bichette? Now you're including Polanco, Bichette, Polanco, and Semien.
Oh, yeah.
Or versus Polar Bear, Pete Alonso, and Jeff McNeil.
It's a good question. I think I would rather have the collective group than just Pete Alonso. And I know Pete Alonso provides a lot of home runs, can hit 50 plus, did not do so last season. I do think there's a little bit more balance to the lineup now. You have the addition of a switch hitter, which I think is extremely valuable. Again, we don't know what we're going to get from Polanco next season. Bichette, I really like the Bichette move for the Mets. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's a short-term deal, so it could end up being a one-year thing. And yes, it's a lot of money, but they can afford a deal like that. And yes, there are going to be question marks about him at third base, certainly with the arm. So we'll see how he pans out there. I do, and it's a lot different of a transition, but he transitioned easily from shortstop to second base in the World Series, the biggest stage of them all. Looked very good over there. The throw is obviously a lot different from third base, so we'll see how he tracks there at third base. That's definitely something I'm going to be paying attention to this season. But from the bat, I think it makes a lot of sense. And, he's 311 last season. The 24 season was a bit of an outlier. He was very bad. Did struggle with injury that season, only played 81 games. Other than that, he's had a very solid career at the plate. MVP votes in 3 straight seasons, 4 seasons total in his 7-year career, really 6 full seasons. So Bichette makes a lot of sense for them. And I just, when you can he was a top 5 free agent in the market. You pair him with Polanco, who was a top 25, top 30, maybe free agent. And then you pair him with Marcus Semien, who is, again, a really good defender. They wanted to upgrade defensively this winter. I think I would take those 3, even though Pete, taking away the name value of Pete Alonso and what he meant to the Mets, being the franchise guy, being Mr. Met, franchise leader in home runs, and he's going to have that title for probably a while until maybe Juan Soto breaks it. That hurts for Mets fans, but I do think there is a possibility that this team is better. At least the lineup is better than what it was last season. And
On paper, it's you know what this plan kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of like a Plan B Juan Soto situation with the Yankees went, where on paper it's not the name. Freed wasn't the name value. Cody Bellinger wasn't the name value. But like you look at the team as a collective, it looked a lot better with those three guys in the lineup. Obviously, up the middle, you're going to have a better defense. There still are concerns with your corners, with third base and first base, as to who can Jorge Polanco be a really good defender at first base. He is a second baseman by trade. Can Bo Bichette be a third baseman, which, Bo Bichette defensively isn't that good at shortstop. I mean, when first percentile in range, outs above average fielding according to Baseball Savant, -13, and his arm strength is 36th percentile at 82.3. And third base is one of the most physically demanding positions, because it's one of those positions that, a lot of it could be just is muscle memory. Like I remember all the A-Rod plays where A-Rod is just like reflex, moving in the right direction, and go look at your third baseman. All your third basemen are prototype 6 foot and over, big, tall, lanky guys who make darts across the diamond. Look at Matt Chapman, Nolan Arenado. They're all really big guys with huge arms. I don't know defensively, but offensively, I think it is a good move. Maybe, they pick up a third baseman to platoon Bichette and put Bichette at the DH, letting him just hit, and they can mix and match with the middle infield, giving Lindor some rest days and Simeon. But, when it comes down to the Mets, man, it's never been about the offense. And so getting Bichette makes them better, yes, because of what they lost. It really comes down is how do they fill that rotation, because we know the rotation was the issue last year, and who's going to play the outfield. They still don't have sufficient outfielders to put out there. Right now, it's just literally Juan Soto. 800 million out there in the outfield. Who is going to be next to him at center? Who's going to be at left? Who's going to fill out right in case he has to go on DH one night? It's clearly the thing. Mets never been a problem to score runs. It's always been, the defense. And so they are linked with Bellinger. Would make a lot of sense. Been saying it since the start of the offseason. They get Bellinger, that team starts looking a lot nice down there in Queens. Again, they need arms. I'm interested to see how Bichette works out. Again, to me, that 3-year 126 value is absolutely ludicrous. $42 million for a guy who, battled injuries this year, battled injuries last year. Could he be in that age? I don't know. It's interesting that, we're getting this flurry of action at the end of free agency. You're seeing a lot of money thrown and high AAV values thrown that I feel like we haven't seen these numbers get flown out in years, which especially now, I mean, Cody Bellinger is sitting real pretty up there with his wife and kids, that he's getting 42. Kyle Tucker got 60. What does that make him? He's the new $45 million man.
He's the next guy that everyone's pointing to. And yeah, I think he's definitely going to benefit from these deals that are getting handed out. It does, though. The main difference is that it seems like Bellinger is really sticking to the 7 years versus Bichette and Tucker were willing to take the shorter term deals. I don't know if Bellinger is going to cave, but I also don't know who's going to offer him the 7 years, because it also seems like the Mets, alongside the Yankees, are giving him that short term deal, but they're not willing to extend out the years. So that's something to watch when we see Cody Bellinger eventually sign. It seems like, John Heyman just tweeted he's deciding between the Yankees, Mets, and 2 other teams. If I had to guess those 2 other teams, you always have to say the Dodgers, even though they just signed Kyle Tucker. Maybe they trade Teoscar and put Bellinger out in left field. And then, I don't know, mystery team, Angels, maybe, who knows? But yeah, that's definitely the next
San Francisco, maybe San Francisco, who knows? Arizona, one of those West Coast teams that has a lot of money. I don't know. And sorry to interject, but again, we have to emphasize that the Mets lineup got better on Friday. And that's a really good thing for that team. But again, who is eating those starting pitching innings? It is the biggest question. Are we really going to expect Jonah Tong, Noah McLean, and company to get it done? Can Kodai Senga be some sort of semblance of being, okay enough to pitch? That's always been the issues with the Mets. And I understand David Stearns has taken this approach, but, they need pitching arms. If you would give me 2 or 3, give me 2 arms that can eat you some innings, I could see them being a team that can get to a deep playoff run, to a CS.
They were scarred by the Verlander and Scherzer contracts, and now I just don't think Cohen's ever going to give out a deal like that ever again. And I know they have young pitching in the farm coming up. I mean, Nolan McLean and Tong were both up last season, but they're still going to be rookies this year. It's just a lot to rely on guys to be, especially McLean, like your number one, number two starter coming out of camp. When this is a team that has World Series aspirations, you just is it really realistic to rely on a guy that's 24 years old to be your game one starter in the postseason and go up and beat the big bad mighty Dodgers? I don't know how realistic that is. So yeah, I do think they need to do something to address the pitching staff. Framber Valdez is still out there in free agency. That's really a name that we haven't heard anything about his market so far this winter. And who knows, maybe the whole mix-up thing with Salazar, the catcher, last summer is really having an impact on his free agency. I don't know, but we haven't heard anything on Framber, which I do think is quite fascinating because a lot of people had him as their number one free agent pitcher this winter.
Yeah, there's not many guys left too. It's Bellinger and Framber out there just waiting.
The big names, yeah, like Eugenio Suarez is out there, but he's an aging guy that strikes out a ton and doesn't play great defense, but will hit a bunch of home runs. I just don't know how attractive he is as a free agent and how much money he's going to make. So yeah, most of the big dominoes have fallen at this point, and we still haven't seen the trade market heat up. And there's actually an interesting note that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the podcast about the trade market and maybe why the lockout is having an effect on the trade market. I do think like this Bichette deal kind of shows, and some of the other deals we've seen, like the short-term deals, like the lockout might not really be affecting free agency the way we thought it would, or some people thought it would, because Bichette just took a huge short-term deal and he can opt out after this season and enter the market as a free agent heading into the lockout next winter.
Yeah. And, now that I think about, I'm playing matchmaker in my mind. You know who makes a lot of sense on the Mets right now?
Hitter or pitcher?
Pitcher.
Zach Allen?
He's a free agent, but no, I don't think they'll bite on that and do the financial commitment.
And yeah, you have to give up draft pick compensation for Gallen because he declined the qualifying offer. I don't know.
Freddie Peralta. David Stearns does have that connection with the Brewers. Trade a couple pieces, get Freddie Peralta. He's 1 year, $8 million. Again, no money until next year. Rental price shouldn't be crazy. I mean, it would make a lot of sense.
Did you see that the Dodgers are looking at Peralta?
Of course they are. Why wouldn't they?
Here's my thing with if you're the Milwaukee Brewers, you just got boat raced by the Dodgers in the CS last season, like just destroyed. Why do you want to trade with the Dodgers? I know they have a great farm system and they have MLB ready talent in like a Emmett Shaheen, or maybe they trade a Tyler Glasnow to Milwaukee. Well, Milwaukee wouldn't take on that contract, but they have young arms that they would be willing to move, and they could obviously get a great return from Freddie Peralta. But do you really want to make the Dodgers better? Like, should teams just say we're not trading with the Dodgers?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Name me in the past 5 to 7 years one Dodgers prospect that has actually hit and turned out into be a quality MLBer.
Like recently, last 5-7 years.
Yeah.
I mean, Will Smith, but he's a little bit older.
He's homegrown.
He is homegrown. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. Emmett Shaheen, but he's super young.
He's still young. I mean, look at all these trades. Like, for as much as the Dodgers are always linked with players, they've always made these trades, and like you always expect, like, we talk about prospect, we talk about these trades where you have to give the top guys. None of their top guys have actually turned out to be crazy. I mean, I remember when it was Yu Darvish, it was Willie Calhoun. Then when they traded for Trey Turner and for Max Scherzer, it was the Josiah Gray and Keibert Ruiz. And like Josiah Gray has shown flashes, but he hasn't been healthy. One, and Keibert Ruiz is like, he's a good catcher, but I mean,
he's not what he was built.
We talk about the importance of the catcher's position. I think it's one of those positions where it's just like, you rather have a defensive catcher than a actual offensive, juggernaut. Like, people want the Martin Maldonado. There's a reason why Martin Maldonado was in the league for so long, hitting whatever he was hitting under the Mendoza line, whatever
Yeah.
that's the whole point. I think some people's blood alcohol level was higher than Martin Maldonado's batting average. so
It's true.
so my whole point is like the Dodgers always get linked with these guys and they don't give up anything. Who did they give up for Glasnow? I couldn't tell you.
Pepio and Johnny DeLuca. Pepio's worked out in Tampa.
Yeah, worked out, but was worked out. What's that?
I think Pepio has performed to what he was kind of expected to be as a prospect. He's been a good starter for the Rays.
A 3-4 arm, but is he worth Glasnow?
No, but you have to factor in the context of that the Rays were not going to extend Tyler Glasnow, so they had to trade him, which is a fundamental flaw with the sport of baseball.
But you have to value that Tyler Glasnow is a really damn good pitcher that would be a number one pitcher in many organizations. That's my whole point. That's my whole point. Yeah. Who did they give up for? Who else did they trade for? I mean, Teoscar they signed. They pretty much signed Mookie Betts. They gave up Alex Verdugo. He was one of their top guys, and look where Alex Verdugo is right now.
Alex Verdugo and Jeter Downs, right? And I don't think he's playing baseball anymore at this point. Jeter Downs.
He may be playing baseball out in Korea or some offshore league.
I'll look him up.
No, but my whole point is if I'm Milwaukee, there's not a chance that I trade Freddie Peralta in the NL. You see how close we were from, aside from the Dodgers, see how close we were to getting to the World Series. Why would you give them to a competitor and get them better and make the mountain harder for you when you are already at such a significant disadvantage in the NL when you have to place the juggernaut that is the LA Dodgers, the San Francisco Giants, the New York Mets, the Philadelphia Phillies, the Atlanta Braves, teams with substantially bigger budgets, and you see the Cubs actually spent money. So yeah, that's
I wholeheartedly agree. I think that needs to be something that teams like the Rays and the Pirates and the Marlins and the Brewers, like that just have less of a budget. They need to factor in stuff like that when they're making trades. So I wholeheartedly agree with you. On the Bichette fallout, obviously the Blue Jays missed out on another free agent. And, that's something that not a lot of people around baseball are talking about, but they have missed out on a couple of free agents again this winter. But the main team that missed out on Bichette was the Phillies. Apparently they offered him a 7-year deal in the range of $190 to $200 million. It seemed like that was all but going to happen. And then the Mets swooped in right after Kyle Tucker signed and gave him this big deal. Dave Dombrowski was talking in the JT Realmuto press conference today, Tuesday, which we'll talk about the Realmuto signing a little bit later, right now. But Dombrowski said, "I can't say that we ever thought it was done. We thought we were very close to having a deal done. We thought it was going to happen, but it wasn't done." It's a gut punch. I mean, you feel it. That day you are very upset, I guess is the way to say it, but you have to pick yourself up and shake it off because you just can't wallow in what took place. So after a time period of feeling that way, you need to move forward. That's how you handle it. The Phillies were reportedly willing to rearrange the roster in a significant way to accommodate Bichette. It was so close to happening that Dombrowski called JT Realmuto's agent at CAA Sports to tell him the Phillies were going in a different direction. That's crazy. That's from The Athletic. Good reporting by them. And just shows you it's a little bit of an awkward reunion with JT Realmuto, who they now signed for 3 years, $45 million, $15 million annually. Obviously, Realmuto provides, he's a huge asset to the pitching staff and the relationship he has with those guys and managing games. He's probably the best catcher in all of baseball at doing so, but the bat has taken a little bit of a decline. And he was clearly a plan B for them. They were going after Bichette, and they missed out on him at the last minute. And now they pivot to Realmuto, who was kind of just waiting there. Don't really know what kind of market he had. And he's like, okay, I'll come. And it seems like a little bit of an awkward reunion.
I don't know. I mean, the whole Bichette thing to Philadelphia all just seems weird. These contracts just seem weird. I mean, you go compare the Kyle Tucker negotiations in which, it seems like the Dodgers at the 11th hour came in and gazumped them. It seems the same thing happened with Bo Bichette where, the Mets came in at the 11th hour and gazumped him. I don't know. You could see something similar with Cody Bellinger where it seems like he's going to be a Yankee and then the Mets can come in and take him up, or the other way around. I don't know. Just seems really interesting from my perspective.
Yeah. There's only a handful of teams that can really offer these short-term, super high annual value contracts. Like we've seen, obviously, the Dodgers and Mets do it. I think the Phillies, they've done it with Zach Wheeler. They gave him a super high AAV short extension. The Yankees probably could do it, but they've been frugal. It's just an interesting trend right now. short-term trend this offseason that we've seen. Be curious to see if it continues.
I truly want to also talk about Toronto.
Yeah.
I mean, what's up with Toronto, man? They talk about all this money that they got, and yet again, they miss out on keeping their homegrown guys, and they miss out on Kyle Tucker again. We see the reports come out with the Tucker. Maybe he didn't want to play in Canada, and then Bichette. Why? What was the hesitation on this Bichette? He's a proven guy. The fans enjoy him. Played in Canada, and they decided to go in another direction with Okamoto, the Japanese import. What do the Blue Jays know that we don't know about Bichette? Is it the injury thing, or two? Is it just that people just don't want to play in Canada? Is there a problem about retention?
I don't think it's a Canada thing. I also do wonder because we really didn't hear much reporting this winter about Bichette and the Blue Jays. Most of the reporting, I mean, his market was pretty cold until the last couple of weeks where he was linked with the Phillies, and then the Mets came out of nowhere. But the Phillies was kind of they were the only team we were really hearing about him going back to or signing with. And I think the thing with Toronto, it sucks as a fan because you had Vladdy and Bichette, two guys homegrown, came up together through the system. You thought they were going to be your kind of franchise guys for their entire careers, and it still could happen. I do think that's an interesting point. Is he could opt out of the Mets deal this year? Blue Jays have some contracts coming off the books after this season, and boom, he's back in Toronto. I do think that's a possibility, but for this season, I do think it's kind of similar to what the Mets have seen this year, losing a lot of franchise favorites. Blue Jays lost a franchise favorite in Bichette. That sucks.
But why? But what's the point? You were so close. You were right there to win the whole thing. Why?
And my question to you is, have the Blue Jays gotten better this winter? They signed Okamoto, signed Cease, lost Bichette. He's gone. Those are their moves so far.
I honestly don't know, my guy, because here's the thing. Everybody's placing this, thing about Cease, that Cease as a pitcher, he has his stuff, but he is also very mercurial. Again, he's one of those guys that he can be on or off. Again, he can be a Cy Young type of guy, or he just can't. When it comes to Okamoto, yeah, numbers in Japan look great, but hey, this is the Major League Baseball. This is America. You don't know what can happen up here in Major League Baseball when you're facing guys like Paul Skeens every fifth day, and you're facing, you can go through the buzzsaw that is the rotations that is the Dodgers. So I don't know. I tend to say they got a little bit worse. My question is, my thing is like, how can you just let Bichette walk? He always seemed like a plan B. It always seemed like it was Kyle Tucker and that Bichette would just follow suit, but they really didn't. It just seemed like, okay, they signed Okamoto, and then Tucker dragged his feet, and then immediately Bichette was gone. So are they building financially? Are they trying to be financially smart? Are they trying to be fiscally responsible? Maybe. And I mean, $42 million for a guy who you have concerns at shortstop, one. Second baseman, I mean, they already have Andres Jimenez, who's a great Gold Glover. And then third base, I mean, $42 million for a bat is a lot of cash.
Yeah, in one season. They also, I forgot, they signed Tyler Rogers and Cody Ponce. Cody Ponce came over from Korea. He's a bit of a project, but could be good. I think the biggest story with Toronto next season is just, can these guys that had like career years last season, can they replicate that form? And obviously, they're not going to be as good as they were last season, but can they be good again? Like Ernie Clement, season of his life, playoffs of his life last year. Can he replicate some of that form? Can Barger be really good again? Can, Santander is going to be there, or sorry, Vladdy's going to be there, but like, can Santander stay healthy and bounce back? Can Alejandro Kirk, we both love Kirk. I think he's, at bare minimum, an elite defender. Can he have another great season? Varsho, just not necessarily like household names. That was kind of the story with the Blue Jays last season. Like, it was a bunch of guys that you haven't really heard of, surrounded by good stars. They were a well-constructed team. Guys had career seasons, and that's what it takes to win a World Series. They came up short. Can those guys replicate that form? I feel really good about their pitching staff. I think that was the main issue they needed to address this winter. And, they don't necessarily have the bona fide, like, Yamamoto, Skeens, Skubal, Crochet level starter, but I think it's a very deep rotation. And I don't think that's the weakness of the team. They have a good rotation, some youth there with Savage, first full season. Let's see what happens with him. I think they probably got a little bit worse offensively, but better in the rotation. And they also missed out on Edwin Diaz. That's a name we forgot about, but they were in on the sweepstakes for him.
It was a big one. Let's move on. I mean, let's talk about Hall of Fame, man. Talk about it, William.
Yeah, let's do it. Hall of Fame was announced this evening. 2 new members to the Hall of Fame, Carlos Beltran and Andruw Jones, were both elected. They will join Jeff Kent, who was elected by the ERA committee last year. I think that was in December. Beltran makes it on his 4th year. He played for 7 teams from 98 through 2017, collecting 435 home runs, 312 stolen bases, while excelling in the postseason, hitting 312 in the postseason across 65 games. 1 Rookie of the Year in Kansas City, 2 Silver Sluggers, and 3 Gold Gloves. He is Puerto Rican, Luis's home country. So you guys have another Hall of Famer. Congratulations. And then Andruw Jones, who's from Curacao, so Dutch national team, which is where I was born. He made it on his 9th ballot. Obviously, all-time great defensive center fielder. Won 10 Gold Gloves playing center field for the Atlanta Braves in the 90s. Those elite 90s Braves teams that probably, for the most part, were forgotten in history. They won 1 World Series, but they just kind of came up short, similar to the Bills in the 90s, except they finally got over the hump. Willie Mays once said he was the best he ever saw at the position. Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr., and Mike Schmidt are the only players besides Jones with 10 Gold Gloves and 400 home runs. Jones bashed 434 for 5 teams between 96 and 12. So, Luis, any thoughts on those 2 guys?
I mean, it's kind of surprising that Beltran made it with the whole Houston Astros cheating scandal gate. I mean, they've been very anti-steroids and preserving the integrity of the game, but Carlos Beltran gets in. Andruw Jones kind of reminds me of what the modern center fielder can be. Very athletic. I mean, you can look up Andruw Jones highlights on YouTube and watch him at night and see the defensive catches and saves that he made. Again, really great speed, great defender, bat, everything came around. Jeff Kent, incredible second baseman on the Dodgers. Main takeaway is Carlos Beltran making it. I mean, if we're letting him in, why can't we let these steroid guys in?
He was a great player. He deserves it in terms of stats. The Astros thing, it's interesting. You know, he did pay the price of losing the Mets job as a result of that whole scandal. He had that job. I think he was introduced as their manager, and then that whole thing broke and eventually had to move on. So, you know, deserving player on the field for sure. There is the off-field stuff with him. And I think there was some off-field stuff with Jones, but both fully deserving for what they did on the field. Some other ballot stuff. Chase Utley led remaining candidates with 59% of the vote. You need 75% to get in. And then Felix Hernandez increased his percentage to 46% after debuting last year at 20%. Cole Hamels, first year on the ballot, World Series MVP for the Phillies in 2008, but did not win a Cy Young. Felix Hernandez did. He got 23% of the vote on his first time. And then all other first-timers fell off the ballot. So Ryan Braun, Edwin Encarnacion, Alex Gordon, Matt Kemp, Manny Ramirez,
sad.
10th time on the ballot, only 38%. So he officially misses out on the Hall of Fame through the traditional voting. Steroid era guy. When you talk, yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when you talk about Andruw Jones, I think about his son Drew Jones, who was that's his son, right?
Yeah, I thought it was. Oh yeah, he was the pick that he's in Arizona.
He was the number 1 overall pick, I believe, over Jackson Holiday, and he just hasn't really panned out as a prospect, unfortunately.
Jackson went 1. Jackson went 1 to Baltimore. Andruw was the number 1 rated. Jackson went 1, and it was a great debate.
Yeah, it was. It was a contested debate at the time.
You were on the Holiday camp. You were always on that camp.
You sure? I think I was kind of a Jones guy.
No, you were a Holiday guy because you were like, oh, the bat's just better. You were always like, the bat, you know, like, oh yeah, Jones pans out, he pans out, but the bat on Holiday is better.
I was watching some of the Jones batting practice stuff, and I didn't love his swing. That's right. What were you gonna ask me?
What team do you think Beltran goes in as? He's played for so many teams. He played for the Royals. He played for the Astros, Mets, Giants, Cardinals, Yankees, Rangers, and Astros.
Like the Royals or the Mets, I feel like.
He played 98 to 04 with the Royals, 05 to 11 with the Mets, and then he played – I don't think he'll go in any other team. So
I think it might be the Mets. He played his best baseball with the Mets. It's probably going to be the Mets. Actually, it's probably going to be the Mets. Congratulations to the Mets. Another Hall of Famer potentially.
Mets are a good franchise, man. Let's not disrespect them.
They are now. They have good ownership.
Relax. The Mets are a good franchise.
Do you want to talk? We talked Realmuto back to the Phillies, but did you have any thoughts on that one?
Not really. I think the biggest thing is I think that we're all waiting on the market is the Cody Bellinger market's quite fascinating to me. I mean, when you look at the Yankees MO, it's quite, we always were, a lot of us were taught in elementary school, middle school, is like always look at the source. And I mean, look at the sources of all these reports of the Bellinger offer. Why are the Yankees being so overt and so non-discreet about this 5-year 160 offer? To me, it's a telling sign. It tells me that the Yankees are sick of the Boris BS. They're sick of the games, and it seems like they're ready to move on, regardless of what's to happen next. You can talk about wanting to be a Yankee, wanting to play for the Yankees, wanting to wear the pinstripes, come to 161 in the Bronx. But at the end of the day, you've been given 160, and you want to get paid more money. It's a telling sign, man, when all these Yankees reporters and the highly sourced guys are saying like they're ready to pivot, they're ready to move on. And I think it's a scary time in New York for the Yankees. I mean, Bellinger not signing potentially, potentially he's probably going to go to Queens, to be honest. Him not signing. What is Plan B? Hey, I'll just say this: Juan Soto left, he's gone. Cody Bellinger, he's left. It's Jason Dominguez time. It's the Martian.
I don't know if you saw the report today. They were linked with Austin Hayes, a name
I don't care.
Brought up before.
Honestly, just run vibes, man. Just run vibes. Let's just run Dominguez. Or bring back my guy Harrison Bader. I've been on the Harrison Bader train all offseason, and you know that. Just bring back Harrison Bader. Screw it. Let's do it.
Is Drew Jones ready for the big leagues?
No, Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones, man.
Oof. I mean, I do think the fact that they've made everything so public kind of just tells me like their offer is out there, take it or leave it. And Bellinger's kind of just been looking around to see if he can get anything better. I think eventually the Mets will give him something better and he'll take it. Like you said,
I just don't know why have we gotten to this point? It's like the lights at the bar are about to go on and the Yankees have no dance partner. That is a very, very bad problem. New York Yankees. Man.
I think it's crazy that they've been so locked in on Bellinger this whole winter. It's been 2 months at this point of the offseason, 2.5 months. They've been locked in on Bellinger the whole time, and he's drugged. This thing is now moved into almost February. I feel like it's been 2 weeks since it's kind of been like final offers on the table. The Yankees are willing to pivot and just nothing. And, you get burned by one free agent. Now it's February. And like, where do you go from there? Spring training starts in a couple weeks. Like, what do you do?
Jason Dominguez.
What's the plan B? The trade market hasn't heated up the way people thought it was. It's probably going to be Dominguez. And then they'll sign some guy that can hit against lefties.
Let's go get Luis Arraez. Let's do it. Let's run Luis Arraez at the DH. Singles king.
DH, we got Giancarlo's the DH. Can't.
I don't care. Just run out Giancarlo in the outfield.
Oh my god. They don't care. They don't care about winning. They don't care. They care about selling chicken tender buckets and selling as many tickets as they possibly can.
The Yankees go to Mets games. I'd rather go to Mets games at this point.
The Yankees could. The sad thing is about the Yankees, and I've talked about it before. Like, they could do nothing this offseason, which seems like it's a very real possibility at this point, and people will still go. They could have a 60-win team, which is inconceivable for the New York Yankees. But let's just say theoretically they had a 60-win team. People would still go, not to the level they are right now, but nothing will change with the Yankees until you start hurting Hal Steinbrenner's pocket and stop showing up to the games. Stop watching on TV. Don't buy the Yes package. That is how you actually – and if you affect the revenue, that's what will implement some change. And it's still too early to make this type of a complaint because things could happen. But and I know they have a ton of big contracts on the books. But my whole point is, how do you watch what happened last season getting just curb stomped? game after game after
in the
game
playoffs.
against the Blue Jays all regular season and then in the playoffs. And the year before that, you make the World Series because you traded for Juan Soto. That's the only reason they made the World Series that year. And then you get absolutely embarrassed on a national scale, one of the highest viewed World Series this century against the Dodgers. And you get embarrassed. And they do nothing to make the team better. Nothing. This winter is even worse because they have literally done nothing to make this team better. It's an embarrassment. It's a slap in the face of the fans. They go and spend $100 on beer and chicken tenders to watch this team play. It's a disgrace to Aaron Judge, the best player in the sport, the best hitter in the sport, whatever. It's an embarrassment. And I'm not saying you have to go out and spend $1 billion every winter, but you should do something besides re-sign the bench, which is basically what they've done this year. The fact that Trent Grisham accepts a qualifying offer for $22 million and that totally derails your season, your offseason, is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. You are one of the most valuable franchises in all of America. It's crazy to me. It's crazy.
That $22 million Trent Grisham contract looks like a bargain, though, if you really do think about it. Let's hold off on that note. But yeah, I was talking to a girl this summer. I was at the bar here in Miami, and it was a friend of a friend. We were just chatting, it was for just friends of friends, just chatting with each other, And they're like, "Oh yeah, you do a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, we talk Yankees stuff." And I was like, "Oh, Yankees," and she lived in New York, and she was like, "Oh, I kind of root for the Mets because the stadium's better and the food's better." Now that I look at how things are going with the Yankees, I wouldn't be surprised that Citi Field has better concessions. They're probably using the same chicken tenders from the 1950s out in Yankee Stadium, and Citi Field got them genetically modified, organic, super free range chickens that taste way better. I don't know.
Both stadiums are fine. Neither are amazing. They're both 21st
I don't know.
century.
I don't know. Hey, Citi Field probably uses the chicken that Steve Cohen eats with his wife and gives the Juan Soto and his family when they come over for dinner. Yankees probably still use the genetically modified chicken from back in the day.
McDonald's chicken or something.
Pesticide, the chicken that comes out of a tube like toothpaste. Allegedly.
The Mets are open up that casino outside the stadium too eventually. So yeah, I don't know.
That's gonna be crazy. I mean, bro, is it really time to switch over on the Mets bandwagon, William?
No, well, I'll never switch my allegiance for any of my sports teams unless the Grizzlies move out of Memphis. That's the only one that would change.
I know casino though, good food.
No, give me a break.
They spend money.
Human beings will get divorces, but they will not change their sports teams' allegiances. It's like considered more sacrilegious than getting a divorce.
I know you would be the person that cannot date a Red Sox, Ohio State, or that's pretty much it. Like those are your biggest deal breakers. If Taylor was one of those, it'd be a problem.
The Ohio State one, would be. I just don't think that's humanly possible. Packers fan would be tough. You would never
be able to do Thanksgiving with Kayla if she was an Ohio State fan.
Yeah,
I
could never date an Ohio State.
It would just never happen. No.
Let's get around to some of the news and notes from the rest of Major League Baseball. There was an interesting article that dropped in The Athletic today by Evan Drellich. The title is MLB owners enraged by Kyle Tucker Dodgers deal will push for salary cap no matter what. And the first sentence says MLB owners are raging in the wake of Kyle Tucker's free agency agreement with the LA Dodgers. And it is now a 100% certainty that the owners will push for a salary cap. One person briefed on ownership conversations who is not authorized to speak publicly told The Athletic. He said, quote, "These guys are going for a cap no matter what it takes," the source says. So it seems like the owners had a similar reaction to that fans did to this Kyle Tucker signing.
So where are we going next year? We're doing like Kenny Powers goes to Mexico to get our baseball locked in sports. Are we going to the Mexican League? Are we doing the millennial 2026 thing of going to Tokyo?
I would love to go watch NPB baseball in Japan. That would be awesome.
So we cover NPB. So I should get the Duolingo up in Japan going.
My dad learned Japanese or did Duolingo extensively. I think he actually had a Japanese tutor before we went to Japan. And dude, it's unbelievably challenging for people that speak English to learn Japanese, Chinese, one of those languages. It's just an entirely different it's so different from what we're used to. And, he's been doing it for like 3 years at this point, and he's only, he can speak like a couple sentences, maybe. Like it's that challenging.
But regardless, I mean, the lockout's coming. We just got to figure out where we're going. We're going Mexican League, Caribbean, Venezuela, maybe. I don't know. Some good baseball leagues all around the world that we can go to.
Yeah. So I do have some thoughts on this whole lockout thing. That is going to happen, it seems like now. I think the main thought I have is, at the end of the day, from a fan perspective, I really don't think what we want the most is an entertaining league. We want every team should feel, or every fan should feel like their team has a chance to win the World Series. And whether that, and the fact is, a good chunk of this league, maybe over half of these teams and fan bases, feel like their team does not have a chance to win a World Series. And whether that be poor ownership that refuses to spend, whether that be related to just the Dodgers being better than everybody else, and you have teams that actually spend and you can't spend whatever, or they choose not to spend at the level of the Dodgers, whatever it may be. The point is, it's a fundamental flaw, and it's detrimental to the league and the growth of the league and the interest in the league. The fact that only a very small handful of teams can actually win the whole thing. Because in the NFL, every fan base feels like they're a quarterback and a coach away from winning a Super Bowl. In the NBA, every team feels like they're a top 5 lottery pick that hits away from winning the NBA Finals. In Major League Baseball, teams like the Pirates, the Reds, and again, for whatever circumstances they may be in, those teams genuinely feel like they can probably never actually win a World Series. And that sucks. That's bad for the sport. On top of that, I think for like the labor negotiations specifically, going off that, and like just the fans wanting the league to be interesting, I don't think fans really care how much money players are making at the end of the day. They just want to see a good product on the field that they enjoy watching. Obviously, these players deserve, contracts. They deserve to be paid, etc. But I don't care if Kyle Tucker's making $250 million or $300 million. It has no impact on my enjoyment as a fan of the sport. It doesn't affect my interest at all. I just want to see good baseball at the end of the day. I think most fans would probably feel that way. So I do think it's interesting that we are seeing a lot of fans take the side of the owners in these negotiations, because we want to see more competitive balance. Now, the counter to that would be the owners don't really necessarily want competitive balance with the salary cap being implemented. They just want the franchise values to go up, which would be a result of the salary cap. So it's interesting. It's something I'm watching, just like the reaction from the fans, because that's the perspective we're coming from, like the fans' thoughts on what this lockout is going to be. Because I do think there is some sentiment among fans that they're willing to sacrifice games if it means more competitive balance in the sport.
I don't know. I just don't know how. You got to also think about, this would be the awful time for the lockout to happen. Soccer, football, to many other parts of the world is going to have an insane momentum in the United States after the World Cup. We're going to have the biggest World Cup ever on home soil, and that's going to create some positive buzz and momentum. They do a lot of good marketing with their young superstars out there in Europe, and those guys are going to be coming over and playing some top quality ball down here in the States. The average eye will be enlightened to soccer, and having the lockout now at a point right after the momentum of soccer coming into the United States, aka football, it's going to be big. I mean, baseball really can't afford a huge lockout, because I'm telling you, more people will be watching the World Cup here in the United States than a baseball game this summer. And I know we're going to have issues, and not issues on pod, but we're going to have issues keeping up, with both, because we both are big ball fans in both regards. So it would be really an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, I've seen some reporting. I don't know how accurate it is, that soccer has surpassed baseball in terms of popularity in the United States. So I totally agree. Like, the last thing baseball needs is lost games right now, and fans to get turned off to the sport again, because it happened in the 90s with the strike. Like, that really hurt interest in the sport. The steroid era, I think, at the end of the day, like, probably had a net negative effect on the sport, even though like the McGuire Sosa home run derby or home run race, whatever people love. But yeah, a lockout is never good for sports, but it's going to happen.
It's not going to be good, man. I'm telling you. But let's continue, man. Ha-Seong Kim can't stay healthy, out 4 to 5 months. Finger surgery to repair a torn middle finger tendon on the right hand. He suffered the injury when he fell on ice.
That's unfortunate. That really sucks for the Braves. They added him on waivers in September after Tampa got rid of him, and then he signed a 1-year, $20 million deal in September or in December. Seemed like he was going to be their shortstop. That position's they haven't really been able to.
It's cursed.
Is it cursed? Like they haven't been able to fill it since Swanson left. I know Arcia was decent for them a little bit at times, but like Nick Allen last year was an elite defender, but could not hit the broadside of a barn. Now it seems like the Dubon depth signing is going to help him. Like he'll be their starting shortstop for a while. That sucks. I mean, how does that happen? It fell on ice.
Bro, there's some injuries that just happened, man. I thought my groin was about to give out this weekend when my feet were going one way. One foot was going one way, the other one was going the other on the ski coming down the slope.
I broke my foot in the swimming pool, so.
You did?
I always have a hard time explaining that one to people. Yeah. So I jumped to the bottom. It was in high school. I jumped to the bottom and I wanted to see.
You did? In high school? What?
Yeah, it was between sophomore and junior year. I had a cast on it. Yeah. I jumped to the bottom. I wanted to sit at the bottom for as long as I could for whatever reason, see how long I could hold my breath. And I was like almost out of breath, or I was completely out of breath. And I used my legs to like propel up, obviously, to get to the top. And I slammed my right foot again, or left foot. I can't remember which foot it was, but I slammed my foot against the side of the wall. It hurt like hell. Broke my foot. Fluke injury.
Damn. It happens like Joel Zumaya playing Guitar Hero back in the day for the Detroit Tigers.
Justin Johnson falling off the stair, down the stairs, and during the Masters.
How about Ellie De La Cruz declining the extension? He was offered an offer that would have made him the highest paid Red ever. Again, he is a Boris guy. I'm not surprised. Boris guys are trained to hit the market.
So the Reds president of baseball operations, Nick Krall, said Friday, quote, "We made Ellie an offer that would have made him the highest paid Red ever. That's not where he is, and you respect it. It's their career. You keep going, and you keep working on what you can do today." He said he's also approached some other young players about extension, but none have come to fruition. Look, I know, this is terrible business by the Reds, making this all public. It's very clear what they're doing. They're saying, we tried with Ellie De La Cruz, and they're trying to paint him out to be like a villain almost among the fan base by saying he could have been the highest paid Red ever. He declined our offer. We tried to give him the money. He refused it. He's greedy. Same kind of thing happened with Juan Soto and the Nationals, except Juan Soto was a better player than Ellie De La Cruz is at this point in his career, and Juan Soto ended up winning a World Series in Washington. But Washington made it very public that from very early on that they offered Juan Soto extensions and he declined, or an extension offer, and he declined it. I think this is the same thing is happening in Cincinnati here, because Cincinnati knows they're not going to bring De La Cruz back. He's a Boris client. He's going to hit free agent market. He's going to hit the market. And it's not good for the relationship between player, management, and fan base. I don't like the Reds going public with this at all. Not a good look, in my opinion.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, they've extended Votto twice before free agency, so it's been done before. They give Hunter Green a big deal, right? Hunter Green got a big deal. I think it was 6 over 53. Yeah, 6 over 53 that can get escalators to 95. Again, I don't know, man. Again, it falls into the whole salary cap thing. I mean, maybe this changes. I mean, I don't know. That'll be something we can look back and do revisionist history in the future, is talk about these guys that had extensions on the table and didn't take them. And what if they put the lockout in next year and they put the salary cap and you can't get these mega deals?
Yeah,
you could be hurting your money at the end of the day.
Yeah, PCA is kind of another young player that's looking to get an extension, so that's a name to watch. Cruz will be a free agent after the 2029 season, entering his age 28 season. So in his prime, he's cut down on the strikeouts. So I think he's going to get a pretty big payday.
Yeah.
Last thing, just Ken Rosenthal dropped one of his intel articles this morning in The Athletic. So we talked about the lockout hindering negotiations, and it hasn't really seemed to affect free agent negotiations, but it might be affecting trade talks on players with 2 years of club control. He said, quote, "The exec that he was talking to pointed out that it was difficult to value such players when a lockout might turn those 2 years of control into less than 2 or even 1, because we might lose games next season. The same might be true of those players at this coming year's trade deadline. Only 2 players with 2 years of control have been part of significant trades this offseason, Johan Oviedo and Jeff McNeil. Others in that service class are Brendan Donovan, which we haven't really heard much about his market, so I think that's quite interesting, and Mackenzie Gore, who's been linked with the Yankees, but we really haven't heard much since then, and also Nick Lodolo. All those guys have 2 years left of control, and the fact that that second year of control might be hindered by lost games might be affecting the trade market. So I found that pretty interesting. And then the other thing was the Padres were in on Arenado, and also the A's were in on Arenado. They had a deal in place with him, but it seemed like Arenado was going to use his no trade clause and say, I don't want to go out to Sacramento. The A's would have absorbed more money than the Diamondbacks did. So A's trying to make moves here. They're trying to build something for Las Vegas. Those were a couple of things that I thought were interesting from that article. But obviously, if you want to read the full thing, go get The Athletic. I think their stuff is really good.
Sacramento that bad? The place to be at? I mean, it's different than the rest of California. I've seen the things that it's like not the palm trees that everybody thinks California is all about, you know?
I don't think it has to do with the city. I think it has to do everything with the stadium and just being in a minor league stadium and having to, your clubhouse is out in center field. You got to walk all the way in to get to the dugout. Like it's a second-rate facility. They got a couple more years there. Like, does Arenado really want to finish his career in Sacramento? Nah.
I don't know, man.
Arizona's got a chance. I think like the A's could be good, but it's just a stadium thing. I've never been to Sacramento. Armand could tell us about Sacktown.
I've just heard. I got to ask my California friends and see what the deal with Sac is. So maybe I make my way out this summer to Sacramento. Who knows?
Light the beam. They had a good one season run out there.
Light the freaking beam, bro. When are we coming back?
I'm out of town this weekend, so probably next week. Unless we can hop on Sunday, something like that. But the offseason rolls on. Preview season is starting relatively soon. In a couple of weeks here, we'll be kicking that off. Start with the Rockies. They have the lowest over-under win total and really haven't done anything this offseason. So we got to figure out something to talk about with that team.
Maybe we get Joe on just to fill time. We take him on to the Rockies.
Yeah, that one's going to be tough. Got anything else?
We can talk about bull testicles that the Rockies have that at concessions.
I feel like you've brought that up like 3 separate times now. It's known at this point. Everybody knows.
Well, they got to the end of the podcast, so they can put bull testicles in the comment section. Rockies bull testicles, baby.
They do sell them apparently.
Right. So,
all right, this was fun. A lot covered. You got anything else, or you
nothing? I got nothing, man.
Really, all right. That's all we got. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you did. Hit that like button. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. Until then, catch you next time. Peace out.